Hello, everybody. It is Megan here, Healing Foods Coach. I hope you're doing well. I'm actually feeling extremely well. It is Wednesday. It is the 28th of August, and it is fantastic to be making more video content for you guys. I do apologize. I did have every intention to make some content yesterday, but one of my projects that I'm currently working on actually took up more time than I expected, and it just didn't happen. So I'm making up for it for you today. I hope you're all doing well. What you are seeing behind me is a place 2 minutes down the path from my house called Hilly Fields here in Colchester. That's part of it, where I often walk my dogs. And actually, it's kind of great because the sky you see in my backdrop is actually what the sky looks like today outside, which is kind of nice. I often will put this one up and it turns out there's rain or it's gray in the background. So I like when that happens. What did I want to talk about today? Today's topic, and it's not animal-based diet specific, but it is a good one for life in general, and that is how to turn negatives into positives. Something I've been really working on, something I've been really learning over the last little while is the importance that neuro associations play in life. And that's where we have an association in our brains with things that happen in life, things from our past, things that we're doing currently, and they're either positive or negative. They can either make us feel empowered or they can limit us or stop us from moving forward the way we want to with our life. And I feel like this is really an important thing to talk about because I know one of the things I had to do when I decided I was tired of being sick and sore and tired was I had to change my thinking patterns. I had to be willing to try something different. And when I went from a standard diet to transitioning to an animal-based one, and that took a lot. And so I had to turn a lot of negative associations, feelings, and emotions that I'd always had and try to see them from a positive perspective. Now, I understand that is not necessarily something that's easy to do. And we all have to make those choices about different things in our lives every day. You know, we may have a negative association with doing a certain type of work. Perhaps we had a bad experience working in an office environment. So when we look to apply for a new job, we want to go for something that isn't office-based because we have a negative association. Maybe our previous boss wasn't really good. Maybe we had a terrible coworker. Maybe the business we were a part of went bankrupt or we were made redundant or things happened. And so we have a negative association. So how do we, so you might be asking, Megan, how do I take something that's always been a negative and make it a positive? Okay, well, first of all, I understand it's not that simple, but it is something we can start to do fairly quickly. And it's, when I thought back about it this morning, I realized I had been starting to do that 4 years ago. It's what I had to do in order to convince myself that I was not only wanting or thinking about switching to an animal-based diet, but I had to actually take steps to do it. See, in my mind, when you said the word diet, one of the first things I used to think about was Garfield the cat. And there's I used to have a bumper sticker on an old high school like notebook binder, and the sticker said diet means diet plus T at the end. And you know, because that's Garfield, he didn't ever want to diet, right? And my whole life struggling with bulimia and at times anorexia and being restrictive and binging and purging, all of those negative patterns were because I had associated negative things in my mind through my anxiety, through my moments of depression. When I triggered my bulimia and those binging, purging, or restrictive episodes, that was because in my mind, I associated eating food even if it wasn't the best food for me. I didn't know that then, but what I associated eating food, eating healthy food, was a negative association, because if I ate food, I would put calories in my body, I would get fat. Fat was bad. I was going to be obese and unloved and unwanted, and nobody would care about me. That is where my brain was. That was the negative association I had between eating something, getting fat, and therefore my life was not worthwhile because I wasn't a certain size. That there was, and that was me. That was just one aspect. Okay. And of course, I understand a lot of us, not just females, males can have this struggle as well, but particularly females, we have this idea in our minds of what we should look like. Many of us, if not most of us, you know, um, and it's easy to blame who we see in films, who we see on television. It's easy to blame who we see in the music world, because often the most popular females are a certain type of beauty. Now, that isn't always true, and that's certainly changing especially over the last several years. Um, Talent seems to be more important than a certain size or a certain look, but for quite a long time, that wasn't the case. Okay, obviously. And the same, and actually, as far as men go, you have to be a certain build, you have to be super buff, you have to look like you work out every day for 4 hours a day, you have to be built a certain way. Those are the images that are put out by the media. Now, why does the media put those images out? Because we as people are willing to accept them. For a long time, we wouldn't challenge them. And even if we felt negative about ourselves, we were willing to accept those images for the most part. And so we helped feed that cycle. The reason I say that is because I'm not going to go and bash media, the movies, film, like movies or film, whether it's TV, whether it's theater, whether it's actual movies, whether it's music, whether it's fashion, whatever it is. The reason why they were allowed to put out those images and those ideals for so long is because we as people, consumers, accepted it. Even if it was negative, we were willing to accept it. And so I've had to realize that I played my own part in any negativity or any limiting thoughts that I had. And it would be easy to blame everything around me. But as I've been learning, life happens for us. It really doesn't happen to us. And let me say this. What I mean by that is everything happens. We all have our challenges. We all have our frustrations. But I've had to stop and realize that I can either be limited by it or allow it to help me grow and change as a person, which is what I'm choosing to do now. Okay. Which is why I have this channel, which is why I'm so grateful you guys are supportive, which is why I appreciate all your feedback, all your love, all your comments, because that's why I do this. For a long time, I felt that I maybe had a voice, but I wasn't worth listening to. I'm just some regular person. I'm no doctor. I'm not anyone particularly special. And yet we all are. And that used to be a very limiting, negative thought pattern that I told myself. I'm nobody really. Who wants to listen to me? Well, you guys do. And I thank you for that. But we all have a voice. We all have things that we have to share, or we want to share, or that we should share. And that's the positive. So getting back to my original topic, how do we turn negatives into positives? All I can tell you is what I've slowly started to figure out myself is that everything that can be seen as negative, and it might actually be a negative, can actually be turned into something down the road that is positive as a result. For example, yes, I struggled with bulimia. Yes, I struggled with binging and purging and restrictive eating patterns for many, many years. Yes, I struggled with crippling anxiety and with depression. And those were not positive things in my life. However, I can now, as a positive result, say, hey, you know what, guys, if you're struggling, I understand. I did too. And I will listen to you and I will be supportive of you. And if you ever want to talk, get in touch with me. because I've been there. And so the positivity is that I've been through something that on the other side of it now, I can appreciate all that I have now instead. I have absolutely great relationship with food. I have good health. I don't struggle with crippling anxiety. The bulimia is in my past, and some days I still have those feelings start to sort of well up a little, but then I can manage it. I can cope with it. I can get through it because it doesn't control my life any longer. I eat to nourish my body with an animal-based diet. And you know what? Because I know I'm fueling my body and giving it exactly what it needs, I don't crave anything. I don't miss anything from the carb, sugar, processed perspective. And I feel so much better than I ever did. And I have gratitude. And that gratitude is what has allowed me to feel the courage to share my story with whoever wants to listen. And if people don't want to listen, that's okay too. Right? And so turning things in life can be negative. You know, when I threw my back out 10 years ago, that was negative. I was in horrible pain. My disc prolapsed. I couldn't stand up straight. I eventually couldn't walk very well. I was in a wheelchair for almost 9 years. That was a negative thing. However, I've been able to heal from all that, come through that time. And the positive is that I can now let you guys know, hey, by the way, I've been there and you might be able to get through that as well. This is what worked for me. It might help you too. And that is the positive, is I can appreciate more now, having mobility, having energy, feeling great, having health, because I didn't have it for a long time. And that is the positive. And so I think when we are approaching life overall, and we are looking at getting healthy, and for some people that could simply mean, I know I ate too much junk food. I know I should cut back on sugar. How do I do that? Get in touch. Absolutely. I can absolutely help you one-to-one. And I would love to do that. Or keep watching this channel, follow my videos, tell your friends, all good stuff. But you know what's great is that we reach a point where, and that might be your version of healthy. You may be lucky that you have no chronic pain, you have no real inflammation. Perhaps you're overall in a good state of fitness, but you want to clean up your diet a bit, or you're having some gut issues, or maybe you just have some skin issues and you want to change something, see if that can make things better. Fantastic. That's cool. That's still getting healthy. For some of us, we are dealing with autoimmune conditions, chronic pain, inflammation, musculoskeletal issues. Perhaps we are dealing with multiple things all at once, brain fog and limited mobility or no mobility right now, and depression and anxiety, and perhaps a whole host of other conditions. And I get it. It is really hard to be in the moment and go, how is this possibly ever going to be a positive? Now, everyone's different. And I hope that whatever challenge you face right at this moment, as negative as it might be, that you have just that little bit of hope that something is going to get better, and that it can become perhaps something positive. You know, you may be someone, perhaps you're dealing with cancer. That is absolutely a negative, and that's terrible, and it's awful. And perhaps you're hoping changing to an animal-based diet may improve your symptoms, may alleviate some of your side effects from the treatment. And that is a possibility. Why not? There are people out in this amazing space who have shared their own stories of how they got through treatment for leukemia, blood cancer, brain cancer, etc. And that, as well as the traditional treatments they may have had, chemotherapy or radiation or surgery, they also followed an animal-based diet and felt that much better. And in some cases, it was more that they may not have been able to do much about the cancer itself, but they felt less of the side effects of the treatments because they were following this diet. So for them, that was the positive. Perhaps the cancer they couldn't get. And yet the positive was that they They were feeling as good as they possibly could in spite of everything happening. Just an example, check out DC Learning to Live, who has had blood cancer more than once, and yet he feels great. He's feeling energetic and full of health and life at the moment, in spite of those things, by following an animal-based diet. The same could be said for a number of other people out in the space, but check out his channel, by the way. So maybe that is the positive. How to find some improvement of health wherever you might be in your life. And that can come from switching up your diet. Trying to find a positive spin on a negative situation. And I say that because finding the positive doesn't mean we never have negative. In fact, we'll never, speaking for myself at least, and I think hopefully for a lot of us, is that we would never truly appreciate the positives if we'd never been through the negatives. And that is life. Life always happens. Life will always happen. Negative things will come our way. And it's how do we deal with those situations? How do we learn to respond? That doesn't mean you're not scared. That doesn't mean you're not sad. That doesn't mean you don't struggle with your faith. That doesn't mean you don't get angry. Those are all perfectly healthy, normal responses when you are faced with a negative, perhaps even life-threatening situation. But then what? Where do we go? How do we go from there? Thinking back to where I was in June of 2020, I was at a point where I was either going to finally do something about all the weight I had gained, about all the fat I was carrying on my body, about the unbelievable chronic pain and inflammation and brain fog and depression and anxiety and all the things I hated about myself. I was either finally going to do something about it, or I was going to stay in that state for the rest of my life. And I didn't want to stay in it. So when I first started keto carnivore, yes, I wanted to get rid of some of that extra body fat. I had to, because it was putting extra pressure on my joints, which were already stiff and sore and achy all the time. It was already putting pressure on my back and on my body. I knew I had to lose the weight. However, I also knew I had to approach it sensibly. Restricting severely never worked for me. I was still very limited in my mobility. I wasn't going to be out moving a whole lot, but I knew I had to find something. And instead of wallowing in the self-pity and, well, I can't help it, I'll just eat a cake. I can't help it, I'll just have an extra helping of pizza, or I'll just have another portion of takeaway, or whatever it is. I realized my why has to be now putting my health first. And so I had to take that negative situation in the heart of COVID and turn it into something that could be positive. And it was great, because that allowed me the courage, and I mean this, I was terrified to eat animal proteins and fat, because I was still convinced that it was going to make me even fatter. I didn't know any better. But I allowed myself the courage to eat some fried eggs and bacon. And the dopamine hit and the joy of eating nutritious, healing foods for me was amazing. And I never looked back. And so I wanted to share this with you guys, to say that whatever negative situation or whatever you feel is negative, and again, it could be a situation where maybe your friends, your family, your loved ones are trying to tell you it's not a bad thing, but you feel it's negative. If it feels negative to you, it's a negative situation, whatever that might be. I hope that you'll be able to see how maybe slightly changing your mindset can help it become something positive. And as I say, that isn't specifically just for someone who's trying to get started on or carry on with an animal-based diet. The thing is, I say an animal-based diet, but truly it needs to become an animal-based lifestyle. Because when it's a lifestyle, we don't think about, oh, I've only got 4 more days left on this lifestyle. It becomes, habit and routine. And it's what we do, and it's how we thrive. But you may not be there yet, and that's okay. But I hope that you're able to take whatever it is you might be going through, whatever it is that's negative right now to you, and stop and think about, what could that look like if I changed my thinking? Now, if it's a physical thing, if it's an ailment or a condition or an infection, disease, whatever, that doesn't mean it's going to instantly change. But what I found for myself, at least, was when I realized that I could potentially control how I felt physically simply by changing what I was eating. Wow, well, that's positive. So at that point, I figured, well, I might always need a wheelchair. I might always have mobility issues. I may always struggle with brain fog. I might always struggle with anxiety or depression. But I can at least control what goes in my body in a positive way. And maybe if I start taking this negative physical situation and I look at trying to see where I can make small adjustments to that, that could become positive. And here I am 4 years later, walking typically about 6 miles a day, enjoying my life, feeling healthy, feeling strong, feeling ready and full of energy, from a place where I never thought it would even remotely be possible. Now, that's me. Everyone's, how long it takes for you to heal from different things, how long it takes for your health to improve and get better, it depends on who you are, what your conditions are, what you've been eating, and how long your body feels it needs to heal. Everybody works differently, of course. But what I do know is that when I started looking at the possibility of improvement and focusing on the positive potential, that made a huge difference right from the beginning. I was still in a chair. I still couldn't move a lot. When I first started, I was still overweight. But you know what? I tell you, that moment of joy from eating bacon and eggs, wow, you would have thought that I was training for a marathon. That is how amazing and how significant a change we can make when we try to find a positive response, even through negative situations. So that is it for today, guys. Again, I do apologize. I felt like this would be a really good topic for a lot of us. I'm definitely convicting myself here on, let's stay positive. That doesn't mean everything is always, again, we will have negative situations in life because that's life. Life is a continuing journey through negative and positive situations for positive and negative emotions and feelings and times. It's what allows us to learn and grow. But just because something is negative doesn't mean we can't find a positive outcome from it. And I hope if you have sort of been considering, changing to a healthier diet, going from a standard diet to, say, an animal-based one, that you'll take those steps instead of being afraid of that. What if it doesn't work? What if I've tried everything and nothing works and it's just going to fail anyways? What about allowing yourself to think about the possibility that, but it might work. Everything else failed, but this one might work, right? I hope this is helpful. That is always my intention when I make this content, is that it is somehow helpful, maybe inspiring, but if not, I hope it's encouraging. And as always, share with whoever you feel like. Anyone you feel might find this useful, please share it with them. I want to thank you so much, guys, for sticking to the end of the video. It's a bit longer than usual, so I appreciate your attention. I just wanted to let you guys know that my website is currently under some renovation and construction. However, if you are still interested in booking an appointment with me for consultation, for coaching, you can actually still do that, but you'll have to email me at Meghan@healingfoodscoach.com. You'll be able to see, I have other stuff on the website as far as some videos, some interesting scientific facts and details that I've got on that site. You'll still be able to see that. The booking system is under renovation at the moment. So if you do want to book with me, you can always send me an email. Would love to hear from you guys. Otherwise, I hope you're doing well today. I hope you're encouraged today. Thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it. I will be back tomorrow with more content. Bye for now.